bukan ngoneleo ne tan lo ke misi alo ya. Isa no kundo lo mani. Au keremo le su tele mai. Bukati lo mani tan lo ni serea bikenta. Ndome nandronga, ndome kantabu, robembi uchina mbaki. Robele subitali pag lesera sa release na sero ya. Hangge pa kukwatagan non robindo mo niya ngonongo. Rosa bingarabi cukup bagi tala-tala mai Australia. Ya yan mati lo totokan ni Ben Balewai na Southern Swingers mai mata sa lebu na kasaleke kantabu. Arto ko tsumikin arto tomana cukup nabi ko marutanki en radio bulun dobat na kabdi bingarabi tintai. Sa onon dono na kalok na ringamay ni sari ready kero bateke Mr. Brad Hamada mewakan no program nabi mazawa Vakaraubuka do botoka ichiko Vakailavo en Vakaraubuka. Kerwasan do bitan lo chiko batake Mr. Brad Hamada ko en duan kenan tahu en bitan lo tagi ni lavo na maro ni lavo na kena bangat tagi di nau kena vika matelai bitan lo tangan finance se na lavo ko sarga na kenan tahu based out of San Jose. Mr. Brian, Mr. Brad Amanda, once again, we would like to welcome you on board Radio Mbulundowata this lovely Friday afternoon. And we do hope and pray that you'll enlighten us more about not only savings. We've been talking about savings a lot. Today, we'll touch a bit on credit.
Absolutely. So thanks for having me again. It's always a pleasure on Friday afternoon.
Okay, when we talk about credit in even savings, we've been touching on savings a few weeks ago. When we talk about the Fijian culture, it is kind of a new thing to us to save. Even to save, it takes an effort, quite an effort, to even save your money. We are not used to saving. That is just the bottom line. But now we'll talk about credit. I think the American culture or the American system, they say it works with credit. Can you just talk about what is credit?
Okay, so credit. There are a lot of opinions about credit. What I tell people is that a lot of times, credit is something that is not familiar to a lot of foreign cultures. It's almost only in the U.S. where you can buy large quantities of stuff that you cannot afford. And so when we talk about credit a lot in the U.S., the way that I see it is that, people say, oh, it's good. You need to have good credit. Your credit score needs to be high. Credit. And I tell people you should have a good credit score because it means that you're reliable, right? It means that you have good integrity with the money that you spend. But at the same time, credit can be very dangerous. Because there's a lot of organizations that offer, let's say, credit cards and things like that, and from a point where you may need money, you may need a little bit of money, so maybe a credit card or something like that is something that can help you afford something, or if you need to buy a house, or you can get a loan and they check your credit. So credit can be something that is very useful, but it can also be something that is very dangerous. In our culture, and we see a lot of people that live with a lot of high interest credit card debt. I tell people that there's two kinds of credit. I call it good credit and bad credit. And so good credit is credit that is low interest and may also be deductible. So for example, if you need to take some student loans, right? Yes. And so you have, that kind of credit where you can deduct the interest and it's also maybe 3 or 4%. Versus a credit card that may be 20 or 30% that does not allow you to deduct. That would be what I call bad credit. So bad credit is high interest and not deductible on your taxes.
Thank you, Mr. Brad Hamada. When you talk about credit too, there's a culture where we have money lenders back in Fiji. Some of our cards are always with the money lenders. They take the interest and our card stays there and we get money out of it. So when you talk about credit, in our culture, it's like, oh, it's a bad thing. But you say it can be advantages. There are two sides to it. What are the advantages? Maybe if you want to rent a house in America, like your credit score has to be there. Why is it that we have to have credit for everything that we try to purchase here in America?
That's a good question, huh? Well, the reason that we need credit is because we actually want to purchase something that we cannot afford, right? So first off, if you want to buy food, you have cash and you can
Yes.
purchase your food, and you really don't need credit for that. But let's say, for example, you want to buy a car, or if you want to buy a house that you want to own, then credit starts to become very important. And so then you have what they call like credit score, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about understanding some of the basics of managing your credit score. But in America, you need to, if you want to buy a house and it's like $300,000, you can either pay cash for it, which most people find very difficult to do, or you can get a mortgage. You can essentially buy it on credit, and then you can pay it off over time. And so if you want to buy a house, you need to have good credit. You need to be reliable. The banks or the lending institution will look at you and say, has this person, been paying their credit card bill? And if you have, and they find you reliable, then you may be able to get a loan for your house. And so in those cases, having home ownership and other things like that can be a better way to utilize credit.
Okay, say something. Someone that just moved in from Fiji or any nation in the Pacific, first time in the U.S. I mean, whoever comes in for the first time to live in America, what is one way to build your credit?
Great question. So one way to build interestingly, I have actually worked with some people who do credit repair and things like that. And so some people will tell you, well, if you want to build your credit, then you carry a balance from month to month on your credit card. And so what some people will do is they apply for a credit card and they get let's say they get a $1,000 credit line, right? And so they spend like $500 and then they pay off a little bit and they leave a lot. And so what that does is that earns you a lot of interest that you have to pay back. And what I tell people and what I've been told from credit repair people is that if you want to build credit, you need to carry a balance, but the balance can be as low as $1. So paying more interest and carrying more debt doesn't necessarily build your credit. So if you let's say you owe $300 on a credit card, right?
Yes.
If you can pay back $299 and leave $1.
So you start to build your credit from that $1.
Yes.
So how long could I build my credit to reach that nice word? Your credit score is good. You can take whatever you want.
Ooh, that is a good question. It does take a little while. I don't know exactly how long it takes. I mean, it probably can take maybe a couple years or so. But when you just arrive,
yes,
and you don't have a lot of money, what I tell people is, number one, don't rush out and get as many credit cards as you can.
Yeah.
Maybe you're going to work with one or two cards, and you're going to make sure that even if you have a credit line, and even if they increase it over time, you want to make sure you pay it off every month. Because obviously, when you want to afford a house, you need credit, but you also need money. And if your money is going to pay a lot of interest, then you don't have money to down your house. So we want to be smart with the way that we manage our credit. And sometimes, a credit card, some people think of it like a gift card, right? Oh, I have $1,000 I can spend. But we want to avoid that. We want to pay off our credit card every month. If you need to build credit, like I said, carry over a very, very small amount, like $1, and that will help you build credit just as much as if you were carrying over several $100s.
Thank you, Mr. Brett. Pamboto ni dasa pakararama tagi chuko pambimbi kenta dasa sange ngole me Amerika. Wala ka nabi katuto nga. Okay, ngole ni bangko pinakat dono moto ka. To satu na may me pinakat mo credit. We katuto nga sa credit sa bangko. Ay, na karong ko pa chuko bangko pata using rin ka mga kinugila ko santa kila. Ni vika me baka na vale na moto ka sa sulim sa ndapele lekata. Kaya nga sana tarapa nga maya. Ndo na wasin labolilay. Kaya na po sana boli-boli pa now. Thank you, Mr. Brett. Moving on. So you're saying we can start as low as $1. Is there any other way? Like I'm saying, I just moved in from Fiji like a few months ago. And straight up, I want to look for an apartment to live. I have a day job. uh, it is impossible if I just move in and go straight to do what I've just told you. So what is another way, or one easiest way to to build your credit like just overnight? There's no way, or you just, like you say, wait for 3 years, 4 years, and your credit card will be good. A credit score will be good.
A lot of times when so you can't really build credit overnight. It's something that's done over time, right? So if you think about, if you think about credit, I think of it like trust, right? So just when you meet somebody for the first time, it takes a little bit of time that you trust them, right? Before they become your good friend or partner or whatnot. And so credit is the same way, right? It's built over time, showing over time that you are reliable to pay your bills and such. Now, a lot of times when you don't have credit, or sometimes people struggle with their credit, then what they need to focus on is they may need to show more assets. So let's say if you want to rent an apartment and you don't have any credit, then they may require that you put more money up front. And so that's going to require, obviously, to you work and you be disciplined to save money so that you can afford a little bit more down. And that can help as well. But credit itself really, just like trust, it cannot be built overnight. But if you focus on it each month or day to day, week to week, you can build it. You can build it up. It doesn't take like 5 or 10 years. It can take, much less than that.
So you're saying if I bring in a large sum of money from Fiji, like I can take it right to the bank, like $20,000. Will that be eligible for the credit score to lift to one nice level overnight?
So that probably would not work. I know that when I was growing up, when I graduated from college, my grandfather, he bought me a car, and I didn't have any credit. So what I did was I actually I had some money, and I did what they called a secured loan. And so instead of paying off the car, if I pay cash for the car, I don't actually build any credit because it doesn't show I'm reliable. It just shows I had a bunch of money. And so what we did was we did what we call a secured loan. And so what would happen is each month I had the money for the car and I kept it in a credit union. And then what happened was each month the credit union would draft the money at a very low interest rate. They would draft the money for the car. And so I would pay a little bit of interest, but it would help me build credit as I paid off the car as well. And then as I saw my credit score go up into where I was happy, then I took the rest of the money and I used it to pay off the car. And so I built my credit as I was, even though I was young. There are different ways to do that, and that's one of the ways using secured loans is, where you have the money to pay it off, but you utilize a loan process.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brad Hamada. So if you have cash and you cash your car, you won't build your credit. No way. So you have to get a secured loan so that you can build it up. Ya turakin marama darubukin ko nila upamod sa mata tsubi kata no tubitalo emerke kipaka sa kumunanga ruso bulondol motoka me keto sana tuna pandon bike muni na nomuni dinaw na kena squaw na siyang sarangani toso baka na pandin din sa tuni tsubi kanta Mr. Brad and kabinani ko. Moving on, Mr. Brad, you did to enlighten us on any other thing on credit. What are the disadvantages of it? I will say, I don't want to do anything about credit. I will just use my money.
Okay. I have met people like that where they just want to pay cash for everything, right? So they just use cash. They put money in a bank, and whenever they need it, they pull it out and they pay cash. And that's good too because then you don't accumulate debt. You only spend what you have. So that's a good policy to stay out of debt. But at the same time, you have to realize, yes, some people, by paying cash all the time, they actually don't build up their credit. So when they want to buy something, let's say like a car, and they don't have the full payment for it, then they can struggle to get a loan because there's no credit history. And so...
So that word rings true. America needs credit to survive.
You will need it probably at some point as you reach higher levels. If you want to buy a house, obviously, unless you bring all the money from Fiji, you may need credit to buy a house. But remember that credit doesn't mean that you have to pay a lot of interest, right? It just means there are certain things that you want to establish.
So, going back to what I just asked you, we have talked about the advantages of having credit. Okay, what are the disadvantages?
All right, so the disadvantages are sometimes...
Be frank with us, we're listening. All the Fijians.
Honestly, we get a credit card, and it's so easy, right? If you have $100 in your wallet, and you have to take it out and you have to give it to the cashier, it's pretty tough, right? Because it's your money, you feel it. But the credit card is just like tap. You don't even need to swipe. You just tap, 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 and 100, 200, 300, 500. And so a lot of times we can get a little bit too used to that. And when we overspend, then we start to go into debt, right? And then we say, oh, well, this month I was able to pay off everything except $100. And then next month it's everything except $200. And then next month is everything except $300. And if we start to build that habit and that mindset of, well, I can just pay it off next month if I make more, then we start to accumulate more and more debt. And then, of course, at that point, a lot of your paycheck may go to paying off interest and not even paying off your debt. And that can be a bad situation. So that's the negative side of it, getting caught in the high interest cycle that a lot of people do here in the U.S.
What's another one?
Another bad thing is that sometimes if you don't manage your credit properly, it can be really bad, and then nobody wants to lend you money, right? So if you manage your credit well, it can be very high, but I see a lot of people whose credit gets really low, 600s, 500s, and then that can take years to get your credit score back up, to be able to rent a house, to be able to buy a house, to be able to buy a car with a reasonable interest rate.
Thank you, Mr. Hamada. I think we have come up to the end of the program. Time flies when we talk about money, eh? So, what could be a nice advice to all the Fijians in America that's listening in to Radio Bulan Dua now? Go for the credit or pay everything in cash, or what's your advice? Because you, from a financial standpoint of view.
The U.S. is a really amazing place to be, and there's a lot of freedom. But with freedom comes responsibility, even with our money. And so I don't think it's bad to have a credit card. As a matter of fact, to build credit, I think, that can be a good idea. But you have to remember that when you have a lot of freedom, no one is going to stop you from doing really great things, but also no one's going to stop you from maybe doing bad things that are going to hurt you and go into debt. So, before you think about spending your credit card, make sure that you know that you will have the money to pay it off. Be smart with your money. Pay cash on simple things, but, work on building up your credit at the same time. You can walk and chew gum, right? You can pay cash, but also build up credit.
So you're saying the simple things, use cash.
Use cash. Or if you're going to use credit, you have to know that you're going to be able to pay it off at the end of the month.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brad Hamada. Any last words for us creditors listening in? So you're saying...
You know what? Well, just like I did last week, I want to encourage everybody to reach out and attend our workshops. Okay. We talk about credit and getting rid of debt, and if you have some debt, I say don't worry about it, but you got to do something about it.
So where will be your next workshop at?
Oh man, well you can call into Radio Bulandova and they can let you know. But we do them live online multiple times a day, Monday through Friday, live. So you can log in, listen. There's no cost for them, and we can help you understand your debt and get out of it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Brett, for your time this afternoon. I know you're a very busy man, and we do hope to see you again next time. And by then, all of us will be millionaires then.
All right, take care. Thank you so much.
Vakailavo.